In today's video, I'm going to be covering some beta changes to the map in Bully. Now, just so you know, some of these changes aren't actually like beta changes. Some of these could be oversights, but some of the design changes are like... Some of the design changes are actually too big to be considered an oversight. Let's start off with the positioning of the school. Like, in the mission The Diary for Beatrice, you're told to go through the rear window of the school. However, when you actually enter through the rear window, you end up on the west side of the school, which is pretty unusual. You know, like if you were supposed to actually enter through the rear window, you'd end up in like Dr. Crabblesnitch's office or something. But instead you actually end up like on the west side, just outside the art class. The second change, which some of you may not have actually noticed, is when you're on the balcony, there are 4 windows there. But like when you actually enter, there's only 2 windows. Like as you can see, there's one on the left side and there's one on the right side, but as soon as we enter, the windows actually don't show on the inside of the academy. There should be a window right next to this fire alarm here, but there isn't. And there should also be one right next to these, well, probably not right next, probably behind the lockers. Or maybe the lockers weren't supposed to be there to begin with. The next design change is actually a rather interesting one. If you look on the exterior of the academy, you can see there are actually 3 floors here. But when you actually enter, there are actually only 2 floors. To me, this design actually seems most interesting because it could mean at one point Bulworth Academy was supposed to have 3 floors instead of 2. It's a bit difficult to actually get into position for this one, but you can actually definitely see it when you view it like from the bottom of the stairs. The next design change is also another really interesting one. It's actually in the basement. In the hole where you fight Russell, there are actually a few sort of pathways. Well, outside the arena, obviously. If you go down the one, you will actually see a broken down elevator. In the beta, Jimmy was actually supposed to use this elevator to get access to the roof during free mode. So here's the elevator. As you can see, it's like pretty broken down. It's supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be repaired during the game, and then Jimmy could use it to actually get access to the roof. But it still remains unused in the final game, and it's still pretty interesting to look at. There's also another really interesting design change with the basement as well, which you can actually see on the interior and exterior. So like if we look on the outside of the basement, we can actually see all looks normal, doesn't it? Then when we actually enter it, if we look to our side, we can actually see, well, what looks like sort of like a garage door where you'd expect like a forklift to come in. Now obviously this isn't shown on the exterior for some reason, but it's still interesting to think. Like, you know, maybe it was connected up to the parking lot or something. Also, the janitor, Mr. Luntz, was actually supposed to spawn down here after school hours, you know, like about 7 PM or something. But that was probably removed because, you know, Jimmy could beat him up at his own will and there wouldn't be any prefects down here. Another interesting fact about the basement is, despite how highly detailed it is, it was actually supposed to be used in free mode as sort of like a fight club thing. You know where Jimmy fights Russell in the hole? Well, Jimmy could originally bet on fights in there. Next place we're going to look at is Harrington House, which is another interesting area. Now, Simon Bestia did a video on this, so I'm giving credit where it's due. If you look on the minimap, you can see there are some rooms which Jimmy actually can't access in Harrington House. It's unknown if Jimmy was actually supposed to enter these areas, you know, during Weed Killer, or possibly during Complete Mayhem. This is the most interesting part about Harrington House in my opinion. If you look over the top, you can actually see like a forest surrounds Harrington House. But the thing is there is actually no actual forest in Bulworth. You know, behind Harrington House is the observatory. Well, okay, the observatory is more to the side of it. But Jimmy still has to sort of go behind Harrington House to get to the observatory anyway in the mission Stronghold Assault. If you check the in-game map, you can definitely see that behind Harrington House is the path Jimmy has to take in Stronghold Assault to get to the observatory, and there is absolutely no forest in sight. So could this mean at one point that was actually supposed to be a forest rather than like a clear-cut path? The last area I'm going to be covering in this video is the auto shop.
Jimmy, Leo, you think you can challenge me?
If we look on the inside, we can see there are sort of 3 garage doors. But like on the outside, there's actually no garage doors to be seen at all. So here I'm just going to fail the class pretty quickly. So if we look to the left side of the auto shop, we can see there aren't actually any garage doors to be seen. This one's quite an unusual change in my opinion. So yeah, that's really it for this video, and thank you for watching.